What's up, guys? I'm back. Just want to let you guys know, I get people hitting me up about like, yo, they turn me away, da da da. They're telling me that I can't do something here. I'm like, bro, you gotta talk as if you know what you're talking about and that you're telling them what their job is. So you can't go in there like, wishy-washy about what you're going in there for, what you're about to talk about. You have to talk in there with like a conviction or with a confidence that you know what you're talking about and basically telling them what their job is. So it's always good, like, well, before I go into someone's job, I like to look up what their job duties are, what they're allowed to do, what they're capable of doing. I'll watch like a YouTube video on it or I'll go on Google. Know what their job is supposed to be before you go in there. Definitely helps. I got some lawsuits I'm handing out the next week or two. This weekend coming up, be watching a lot of football, doing a lot of paperwork. Got a lot of paperwork going on. Got another suit against a couple of police departments too. I'm separating them all. Everything's separate. I don't want anything combined or whatever. Now, they're included with each other's suits, but I'm suing them individually. I'm suing them separately as entities. Like, I'm not bunching them up. You know what I mean? They all did violations in different ways. So, it's all good. We got a police department in Monmouth County. Got a police department in Ocean County. I have a agency within the state in Monmouth County. I have an agency within the state in Ocean County. Got a couple lawyers I'm about to start doing their paperwork for their lawsuits because they can be sued in their private capacity for the fraud that they committed. So, I'm doing a lot of title searches, seeing where their houses are at, where their summer homes are at too. So it's a lot too. It's a lot of work. I'm not playing around with this shit. So, these people will still try to take money from me while being incentivized to have my daughter kept from me too at the same time. It's crazy. There's no reason why I haven't, seen my daughter other than, corruption, other than an insidious, diabolical corruption that is incentivized, that is perpetrated by public officials that are meant to uphold the law and whatever. It's crazy. But, just got to keep fighting, keep putting pressure on, and hopefully get enough eyes on it. Like I said, speaking of eyes, I got it out of the Article 1 court. Now it's into a Article 3 court where, they actually have to go by, the Constitution. Hopefully. So you see what happens there. And if not, bring it up to the Supreme Court. But I'm not, done fighting. I'm not ever going to stop. And, try to take money from me while keeping my offspring away from me. It's crazy. Crazy. No reason. Now, I know at this point my daughter's about to be 12, and, they're going to, play the whole thing with, she said that she doesn't want to see you, and she has, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. She's going to be told that, too, on the maternal side. Hey, you don't want to see him, right? Right? You don't want to see him. So that's what they're probably, telling her in a subconscious way. I already know what their whole little thing is. They're not really smart people. Like, my daughter's mother can't even spell worth of shit. You know what I mean? But they're not really, really bright folks. You know what I mean? So that's all I'm trying to say. But the thing is, they're trying to definitely get ahead of this proactive and like really try to get her to agree with them that, yeah, you don't really want to see your dad, right? You really don't want to see your dad. So they're really either going to ingrain it more or they're going to try to reverse all the psychological stuff that they've been saying over the last 8, almost 9 years. My opinion, they're going to try to ingrain it. You know what I mean? They're going to try to ingrain it and push it more while I'm in the appeals process here about to get this shit overturned. So lot of people say like, hey, why don't you, instead of trying to beat the child custody, why don't you just go back to court and get your parenting time back if nothing's happened? It's a good question, but it's not really a good question if you understand the whole dynamic of it. You don't want to go back and give authority and give jurisdiction and ask permission from someone that is part of the problem, that is part of the whole institution of it. The judge is not a real judge in that setting. He's wearing a cloak, which he really shouldn't even be wearing, and they're renting out a room that they're making it look like it's a courtroom. But you really just, it's just a hearing. It's not a courtroom because you don't have it's not a trial. It's not a courtroom because there's no jury. It's a state agency hearing. It's an agency within the state hearing. I don't like to even call it a state agency. It's an agency within the state hearing. And they have a Dun & Bradstreet number, they're a business, they have shareholders, they have all that stuff. So you can't have a judge and an agency within the state holding hearings that look like actual court hearings and think that it's not biased. So that violates your due process off rip. It's violating your due process. There was a case that just passed, SCC versus Jarkissi, which talks about all that. Toomey versus Ohio. Can't have a judge that's bought and paid for that receives monetary kickback, whether it be in pensions, salary, whatever. You can't have any kind of monetary kickback and be presiding over these fake hearings or whatever you want to call it, and have him being the one that's being a judge, jury, and executioner. They don't even have a jury in the freaking thing. He's a judge, jury, prosecutor a lot of times, and he's most of the time giving firsthand information during the trial, during the hearing. I gotta stop calling it a trial. Talks as a first-hand witness during the hearing. I had one judge, Judge Dorn, that said that I was obsessed with my daughter. You know what I mean? In one of the hearings. So he's getting a complaint off of that. I could go back and go retroactive because it is a fraud. So all these judges that I had to deal with, they're all getting complaints. And that's another thing. When you do these judges' complaints, make sure that you include canons. Make sure that you include the canons. You can throw a little RPC in there, rules of professional conduct too, so we can really, whatever. But you have to include canons when you're going after a judge with the official complaints. So keep going, keep fighting, keep going. It's very layered, it's very complex. It's not complex, so it's very simple. Once you learn all the things and all the ins and outs of what you need to do to properly fight back and make these people know that you're not messing around, that you're not going to let them perform this fraud over you anymore, that's when you get your power back, and that's when you realize that, you don't have to, be scared and whatever of these freaking weird-ass people that are basically kidnapping and trafficking your child from you for money. You know what I mean? The clerks are in on it. That's another thing about the clerks. They usually hire these clerks that are like, get along to go along, or go along to get along, whatever the go along to get along type people, which are usually tethers, usually people that are immigrants, people that are pro-Democrat most of the time, liberal, like progressive leaning. That's why a lot of these clerks offices within the courts, within the family court system, they're like 90% women. You might have a couple of guys working back there, but the guys are usually, some form of a tether, some form of an immigrant that just, go along to get along with the process. And once these clerks learn the Constitution, they learn natural rights, and once they get into a agency or into a court system, they immediately get transferred into learning the protocol. So all of a sudden they had to leave the Constitution and what they're really supposed to do somewhere else. They got to put it to the side, and all of a sudden they are now ingrained with protocol or the courts or the agency's procedure, where the procedure now reigns supreme and is now at the highest. So usually they hire people that, claim that they're smart and think they're smart, usually overseas people that, they're just happy to be in the building, happy to be a part of the team. They're usually hiring these weird immigrants that, might not be so high on the IQ level, but you know, they might have a degree, might even have a graduate degree or whatever, but they're dumb as rocks. Still dumb. You know what I mean? Their brain is very, gullible. All of a sudden, you know, they learn what they're really supposed to do from the Constitution, but then when they get hired, now everything's about protocol. You got to follow our protocol first. It gets deep, so you're gonna have to fight these clerks and do all that stuff. But yeah, I'm watching golf, doing my thing, cat. Holla at me, stay strong, keep fighting.